Randi Orzoff, and today I'm going to be making low protein cinnamon bread, a loaf of it, cinnamon swirl bread for my son Jeffrey, which has PKU, and he has to have a low protein diet. This whole loaf of bread, when I get done making it, will have 3.79 grams of protein in it. The ingredients that I'm going to be using are the Taste Connections low protein bread mix, 330 grams. I'm going to be using brown sugar, which is going to be 1 tablespoon, but for the filling there's going to be a half of a cup added in. I'm going to use 1 teaspoonful of instant potatoes. I'm going to also be using 1 teaspoon of the non-dairy creamer. I'm going to be using 2 tablespoons of melted butter, 1 tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil, 1 teaspoon of powdered cinnamon, 7 grams of yeast, 1/4 of a teaspoon of molasses, which adds color to the bread, a tablespoon of honey, and pan to spray the pan with. So first we're going to take some warm water, which will feel to the touch is warm. I'm going to mix together the yeast, the brown sugar, the molasses, and the honey. And what this is going to do is activate the yeast so that the bread will rise. This is going to have to be allowed to sit for a few minutes so that the bread can rise, and this will turn into a frothy mixture. So what I'm going to do is mix this up really good, and then I'm going to cover it tightly with saran wrap and put it on the side to sit for a few minutes. While the yeast is rising, I'm going to mix together the dry ingredients, which is 330 grams of the Taste Connections bread mix, the non-dairy creamer, the cinnamon, and the instant potato flakes. I'm going to whisk these ingredients together to make a dry mixture. Ready to mix the yeast mixture in with the butter and the olive oil. I'm going to let this stand for a few minutes, and then we'll come back and we'll mix it together. Okay, now we've let the yeast mixture rise for about 10 minutes. As you can see, there's a frothy layer on top of it. I'm going to take the frothy mixture, I'm going to mix it together with the dry mixture that we made. Two tablespoons of butter and a tablespoon of olive oil. I'm going to add in some warm water. I have a cup of warm water here, but I want to have a stiff dough, so I'm going to add this slowly, mixing it with a wooden spoon. Until I get a nice stiff dough. I'm going to mix all the ingredients thoroughly together until you have a stiff dough that's sticking to the sides of the bowl with a spoon. I'm going to use a plastic spatula to scrape the spoon. I'm going to cover the bowl tightly with the saran wrap. I'm going to put this in the oven less than 140 degrees, a nice warm temperature for the bread to rise. I'm going to place a towel, a folded towel, underneath the bowl in the oven for 20 minutes. And this will be the first rising session of the bread. I'm going to go ahead and put it in the oven. When we come back, we'll be putting the filling in and rolling the bread in the oven, rising for about 20 minutes now. I'm going to go ahead and pull it out. I'm going to remove the saran wrap off of it. See that we have a nice fluffy dough in here. I put down a sheet of saran wrap on the counter so that I can roll the dough. I'm going to cover this with some ham so that it doesn't stick to it. I also spray my baking pan down that I'm going to bake it in. And I have the filling, which consists of a half of a cup of brown sugar mixed together with a half of a teaspoon of ground cinnamon. I'm going to go ahead and take the dough out, which is very sticky. I'm going to put it into a nice little square on the saran wrap. Leaving an edge around the saran wrap so I can roll the dough. I'm going to take the filling of brown sugar and cinnamon. I'm going to put it on top of the bread. I'm going to evenly spread it out. And then I'm going to take the saran wrap. I'm going to roll the bread. I'm going to have a long piece of saran wrap so you can evenly roll the bread and do a tight roll. Once I roll it, I'm going to put it inside the baking pan. I'm going to cover it with saran wrap. I'm going to put it back in the oven to rise for 45 minutes now. A nice little roll in here. I'm going to put the towel under it. I'm going to put it back in the warm oven, not more than 140 degrees, and let the bread rise for 45 minutes. So I'm going to set the kitchen timer 45 minutes. I'm going to let this rise, and then we'll come back and we'll look at the bread, and then we'll cook it. Okay, now I'm going to go back to the oven. It's been about an hour now that I've been letting the cinnamon swirl bread rise. It didn't rise quite as much as I wanted it to in the first 45 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and pull it out. It's risen nicely in the pan. I'm going to go ahead and preheat the oven to 350 degrees to cook the bread. Cinnamon swirl bread has been in the oven now for about 20 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and pull it out. As you can see, it's going to be set on the counter over here. It needs to sit and cool with a towel over it before we cut it. So I'm going to leave that to cool right now. And when this is completely cool, we'll come back and cut it. Okay, so the cinnamon swirl bread, I've just taken it out of the pan. I'm going to start cutting it into pieces. You can take this and freeze it in the freezer. You want to heat it up in a toaster oven, not in a microwave when you reheat the bread. It will defrost within 20 minutes in the refrigerator.